They say the screeching comes before the storm. Not during, not after, before. The locals know when to seek shelter, not by watching clouds or checking weather apps, but by listening for that unnatural, piercing cry that cuts through the stillness of night. A sound no natural bat could make. Those who ignore the warning, well, they're the ones the storm comes for first. Before the storm hits, make sure you're subscribed and have notifications turned on to survive more supernatural warnings from around the world. In the coastal villages of eastern Indonesia, fishermen have long respected the signs of nature. The behavior of animals, the movement of clouds, the taste of the air, all tell a story about what's to come. But no warning is more feared, more respected, than the cry of the storm bat. Unlike ordinary bats, the storm bat isn't seen in groups. It flies alone, its wingspan 3 times larger than normal, its fur pitch black with eyes that glow an unnatural blue-white, like lightning trapped in glass. The locals have a name for it, Kelelawar Badai, literally, the storm bat. The creature appears only before the most devastating typhoons, those that would swallow whole villages if not for its warning. Its cry is said to be the sound of those already taken by previous storms, a collective wail of souls lost to the sea, given voice through this unearthly messenger. The oldest story of the storm bat dates back to the 1700s, when a Dutch trading ship anchored off the coast during what seemed like perfect weather. The local fishermen had already pulled their boats ashore and were securing their homes. The Dutch captain laughed at their superstition, until a single massive bat landed on his ship's mast. Witnesses say the creature locked eyes with the captain, opened its mouth, and released a scream so piercing it shattered glass in the captain's quarters. Within hours, what historians now believe was one of the most powerful cyclones ever recorded in the region struck without warning from meteorological instruments. The Dutch ship was never found. Neither were the bodies of its crew. But in every major storm since, just before the clouds gather, the bat returns with its warning cry. What makes this folklore particularly chilling is that reports of the storm bat continue to this day. In 2004, weeks before the devastating Indian Ocean tsunami, fishermen across multiple islands reported sightings of an unnaturally large bat with glowing eyes. In 2018, a meteorological research team capturing time-lapse footage of an approaching typhoon caught something on their equipment. A dark, winged shape much larger than any known bat species, flying against winds that should have been impossible to navigate. The audio equipment recorded a sound that technicians initially classified as equipment malfunction, until local elders identified it immediately as the storm bat's cry. Most disturbing was the account from 2022, when an American tourist captured a video of what she thought was an unusual cloud formation. Upon reviewing the footage later, she noticed a massive winged shape momentarily visible within the clouds. That night, the worst storm in 50 years struck the island where she was staying. She was among the few survivors. Those who claim to have seen the storm bat up close describe several consistent features that separate it from ordinary flying foxes or fruit bats native to the region. First, its size is unnaturally large, with a wingspan often described as the height of a tall man. Second, it flies alone, never in groups like ordinary bats. Third, it appears completely silent in flight. The air doesn't rustle around it until it perches and delivers its warning cry. Fourth, those who look directly into its eyes report experiencing a brief vision of rushing water and howling wind, as if momentarily experiencing the coming storm through the bat's perception. And finally, the temperature drops noticeably in its presence, even on the warmest days. Marine biologists and meteorologists have proposed various explanations for the phenomenon. Some suggest that certain bat species can detect changes in barometric pressure far more sensitively than humans, causing them to change behavior before storms. Others point to infrasound, sounds below human hearing range, that major storms produce days before they form fully. Perhaps certain bats can detect these vibrations and react accordingly. But these explanations fail to account for the consistent description of a single, massive bat rather than colonies, or the eerie blue glow witnesses report in its eyes. Not all local interpretations view the storm bat as merely a harbinger of disaster. Some island communities believe it to be a guardian spirit, the transformed soul of an ancient protector who returns to warn the people he once led in life. According to these beliefs, the bat doesn't bring the storm but fights against it. Its cry is a battle cry, challenging the storm spirits. The storms that follow a sighting are said to be only a fraction of what they would have been without the bat's intervention. In these villages, small shrines with bat-like features are maintained near the shore. When the creature is sighted, offerings of fruit and fresh water are left out, not to appease it, but to give it strength for its battle against the coming tempest. In our age of weather satellites and advanced warning systems, the folklore of the storm bat seems like a quaint superstition. Yet locals note something disturbing. Modern early warning systems sometimes fail, particularly with rapidly intensifying storms that form close to shore. During these surprise storms, the pattern remains consistent. Those who heed the ancient warning survive. Those who rely solely on technology often don't. Indonesian disaster management officials won't officially acknowledge the legend, but several have admitted off the record that when local fishermen report a storm bat sighting, they quietly accelerate evacuation procedures, just in case. Perhaps the most compelling recent account comes from Dr. Aisha Nuranto, a marine biologist who grew up in the region but was educated abroad. In 2020, she returned to study coral reef degradation when her research team's weather equipment began malfunctioning. That evening, as she was reviewing data in their coastal research station, she heard what she described as a scream that seemed to come from everywhere at once. Looking outside, she saw a massive bat-like creature perched on the station's weather mast. "I didn't believe the stories growing up," she later wrote in her personal journal, which was recovered after the station was destroyed. "But as it turned its head toward me, I saw storm clouds reflected in its eyes, though the sky was still clear. I knew then what my grandmother had always told me was true." Dr. Nuranto immediately evacuated her team to higher ground against their protests. 6 hours later, a flash flood swept the research station into the sea. The storm that caused it hadn't been forecast to make landfall for another day. The storm bat's warning has reached you through this video. Will you heed it? Subscribe now and ring the bell to receive more supernatural warnings from around the world. Comment below with folklore weather warnings from your region. They might just save a life.